You want to do a presentation from the start, or we can just, you can tell in short who you are, what you do, that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, okay, I'll tell you what. Basically, obviously, if you read the Facebook thing, I'm from South Africa. Basically, I started programming when I was about 16. I started with QBasic. Studied a year course through University of Cambridge. It's a UK correspondence. And basically from there, it just obviously through the steps, I just wanted to get into IT, get into the field, and always the goal was to product manage and project manage stuff. So yeah, basically my wife is from Pirot, known her for about 11 years, and about 3 years ago we decided Pirot's the place to come and stay. So some of you might think otherwise, but so yeah, we decided to come over here and give it a go. And in that time frame, I decided I'm going to start my own company. And basically, it worked out because financially it was more feasible to be here than be in Cape Town. And that's how it evolved. And remote working, basically managing 5 developers in Cape Town and managing a company in Cape Town is basically what I do at the moment. So yeah, when I came to Pirot, obviously I got involved with Tech a little bit because I found the gap between what happens in colleges to actual work experience. It's not good enough. So I thought, let me get involved here so I could try and help educate people. And basically that's where we are today. So yeah, sorry, I don't know.
We can say just a few things like when we were preparing Tech conference, like we received a message from this guy, like, guys, do you know somebody who's doing like I don't know, some development stuff and those kind of things, and I like what you do, and I will probably drop by after the conference because I don't understand Serbian. But yeah, and after that we were like, oh, we know this guy like from Basčelik. We didn't know like. He's not from here.
Yeah, Basčelik is pretty much where I go every weekend. It's the only place I know where people speak English, so it's okay, and they play English music. So yeah, basically Nemanya's right. We got involved, trying to help out. Basically, again, the gap between what happens at colleges to what goes into production to what goes in actually companies is very far, and that's when I've tried to hire developers. It's a big problem. So what am I going to try and do to help this? And this is where I try to get involved with Tech, because in Pirot I feel we are a little more behind than obviously like America, England, and South Africa. So, but there's talented individuals here. So no way. So yeah, basically my one thing that I wanted to get involved in was narrowing the gap between graduation and practice, and that's pretty much it. The software development life cycle is massive. I don't know if any of you guys are in IT, but if you are, this is something that you guys need to swear by. And this is what's not happening currently in the real state of things. So, sorry, a lot of words on the screen. The key points for young developers is understanding the process, understanding what a team does in that process, and understanding what the different roles are. Sorry, that's a bit hot here. And basically, that is one of the key things, is what's falling short between young developers and what's happening in practice. And for us, to try and help educate, for me that's been in the industry for 11 years, this is what I'm going to try and do. So whether it's using source control to help client satisfaction, basically ensuring stable products, using GitHub, TFS, SVN, all these types of things, yeah, it's huge. And this is where I'm going to try and come in to help these guys do what they need to do. So, I don't want to go too fast. I know some of you obviously aren't in the IT industry, so any questions, anything like that? Why did I move to Pirot? It's up to you guys. Nothing? Alright, cool.
Why did you move?
Why did I move? Well, basically the one thing for me is that financially it made sense. Cape Town's an expensive place. To try and start your own business there is difficult. Obviously with BEE, Black Empowerment, there's a lot of things going on there politically which doesn't help me. So coming to Pirot, doing things remotely is firstly a challenge. The world is going remote, 100%. So for me to try and start here, managing things remotely only sets me up for success in the future, which is what I want to try and see if you guys, anyone in the IT industry that wants to come talk to me, that is massive. If you can set yourself up working remotely, you're quite sorted for obviously the next 5 to 10 years in our generation. So that is from this, the narrowing the gap between graduation and practice, to obviously giving you key tips on being a remote worker. That is where I probably am more valuable to guys in Pirot. So yeah, that's essentially why I moved to Pirot. Also, I've kind of fallen in love with the place. For me, obviously earning foreign income, it does help. I understand the financial and the economic situation here. And that's why I try to hire developers. I've hired 2 now. And hopefully I can try and give them the tools to try and go overseas, to try and help them obviously grow their career. So, the one thing I did find with obviously hiring developers and the youngsters today, they don't know how to task manage. And it's a massive thing. When guys are, how to say this, get thrown into a bit of a practical environment, they don't know how to manage a client, all right? And managing clients is so important. So how do you manage a client, all right? You ask yourself these questions. 3 client issues come in, they're all critical, all right? How do you manage it, all right? So some people go around and they say, I don't personally do this. Some people go around and say, who pays me more? Not particularly the greatest practice, okay? So what I do is I say, okay, cool, is it critical? Is the system halted? No. If all 3 of them are, then I'll go and say, okay, cool, which client can I reason with most? Okay? So some clients are reasonable, as you know. Some clients, you can say to them, look, it's going to take me 2 days, it's going to take me 3 days. How do you do this? Right? Someone would be like, okay, fine, that's cool. Other clients would be, no, I need this fixed now, let's sort it out. And as you know, I don't know if you guys work with clients, pretty sure some of you do, so they can be painful. So, that's how I go about it. If all else fails, from a task management
it's important to say that clients are also people as we are, and they're different kind of clients and different kind of people. So
yeah, they can be reasonable or they can't be. Now, if they're not reasonable, then you sort them out first. Also, the one thing I do find, if all else fails, then you obviously have to tier your clients and you have to say, who pays me more? Unfortunately, that's what it is, but that's for me is last resort, okay? And this is what a lot of developers don't understand, because some developers get thrown into a company where they're task managed as well. Normally you've got a team for that, you've got a team that says, okay, Adrian, this is your job, Adrian, this is you, this is what you need to do, and that's how we do it from there. So, that's one of the big things. So, following the software development lifecycle, following processes, using SVN, using source control, to task management, those are the 2 key things that I find developers are lacking in this obviously day and age. So yeah, if I can help the youngsters like yourself understand these things, we could definitely make a success out of it. So, there's a little graphic. When you are in these situations, you first contemplate why did you choose development as your career choice, but nevertheless, once you've made up your mind, then you can obviously keep your client satisfied. Now, don't worry about this presentation, this is probably just to help me out to basically speak to you guys. Now, when you're dealing with clients, it's quite important to understand that, like he says, there are people too. And the one thing you've got to understand is that if you can reason them, you've got to keep them in the loop. You've got to communicate with your clients. Okay, that's massive. And there's nothing worse. There's nothing worse than you actually not talking to your client. It's paramount. You basically, if you think about it this way, if you've got a problem with Telenom, all right, and they don't communicate with you, you don't know what's going on. How do you feel? You're in the dark, right? So think about it from a client perspective when you're task managing. One thing that the young developers of today do, they don't actually care about the clients. And that's what we need to change. That also makes product managers, directors of companies, that makes life extremely difficult. So that is one of the other things that I would love to try and improve. And I have noticed this when I've tried to hire developers recently. It is massive. So yeah, communication between you and your client, paramount. Like I said, if you've got reasonable clients, it does help you obviously prioritize your list. Alright, so in summary, so I know I'm going quite fast here. In summary, for young developers, understanding the SDLC, which is Software Development Lifecycle, understanding roles of the different teams in the SDLC, understanding your role in it as me as a developer, a managing director, a tester, a UAT is user acceptance testing, understanding how that all fits in. Okay, getting used to version control. A lot of guys have hired don't have a clue, and also colleges are also wrong. They don't actually emphasize on teaching you guys version control. You know GitHub, you know TFS, you know all these types of things. Problem there is they don't understand how to use it. And also that's the one thing. If you understand those key principles, I don't think you're going to have a problem. Understanding how to prioritize effectively to ensure client satisfaction and communication between you and clients and your team is very, very important. Many companies across the world, I do it, but like I said, I've been a remote developer for 3 years. they struggle. There's a struggle between even the teams. Also, if you guys sitting over there, they struggle with communication, and I don't understand why. So one of those things is obviously a lot of guys aren't like that. Like me, I like to engage with my team. I like to talk about problems. Some guys that you work with aren't like that, but it's a big problem. It's a big problem. So if you guys, as a developer or anyone going into any company, if you can just have communication as one of your top things to help you, I don't think you're going to have a problem at all. So if I have to take it a little bit further, the one thing that I make sure I do is, you know, I use Skype, I use a lot of these things from a remote working perspective, and one of the sections now which I'm very, very fond of is remote working. I'll explain to you guys the tips and stuff that I feel will help you. Just get on a call. Don't be scared. Ask the question. If you feel it's a dumb question, just do it. And that to me is massive. Alright, so basically, narrowing the gap between graduation and practice is more obviously for the guys that are in IT in this type of presentation. So yeah, the remote working thing that I'll talk about now probably will affect a lot more of you guys and is a bit more beneficial. So anything from your side on this? I mean, you've probably dealt with this in your life.
I mean, looking at this thing when it comes to communication, those kind of things, it's basically the most important thing in the company when it comes to operations and working fast and delivering results. I mean, the clear communication and not only clear, but to know what you want to say it in the right way.
Yes, yeah.
So always like positive. Not, you don't approach other team members. Let's say I'm a developer and I need some things to be done, and like project manager gave me the task, like saying like this is done badly. Like, why is this thing done like this? Please fix it. So that's a wrong way to communicate. The good way is to communicate, let's say, okay, I have looked at this and it seems some things are not giving results or can be better. Maybe like you can look at it and improve it or do something to do it before. So positive, not implying negativity with giving tasks and those kind of things.
What you're saying is 100% true. And guys, I have noticed it in certain countries as well, that there's a lot of this elitist attitude. And the one thing I try and push here is that I don't try and be a boss. I try and manage with just a little bit of respect, and he's 100% right. It's called tact. In English we call it tact. It's just, this is bad, fix it, this is shit. That doesn't work like that. Go in, what's the problem? Why is this a problem? You know, and let's fix it, let's make a solution out of it. The big problem with companies today is that there's this elitist mentality. And the two developers that I have hired here, I've just tried to take that approach. Yes, stuff sometimes doesn't get done the way you want it to. But it's just about communicating correctly. Because I can tell you now, it's a point case this week. A client came to me, Adrian, this is horrible, this is horrendous, the way you did it in the video was terrible. I felt it was actually perfectly fine, but I was so demoralized after that conversation with the client that the next day I didn't even want to do work for them. It's in that boat at the moment, is that that my morale is very, very low. So that's client, okay, they're paying for my services, different story, but when you guys are in a team, it's your teammate, you know? Just talk to them with a bit of respect, and there we go. And I've seen it time and time again in IT companies where the product manager, the directors they just nail the developers, and not the right way to go. So and that just all revolves around communication. And some people might think, oh, but that's normal, just treat someone with respect. But you'll be surprised how people change when they go up the ladder. And that's a big thing. And that's a big problem, actually, especially in the corporate industry. Smaller companies, you can get away with it. But corporates, they are like that. But you know what? Where do you sit at the end of the day? Bad product, developer's going to resign, and it's not going to take you anywhere. So one thing big time, communication. In my role as a remote developer, communication is key.
Yeah, and also like connected to all of this, behind all of it, it's empathy.
Yeah,
like you need to try to figure out how that other person, your teammate or whoever, is gonna feel after you communicate in a certain way with him or with her.
Yeah.
So that's important to realize how they are going to communicate, not to look at only at yourself.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what, it goes as far, sometimes it goes as far as looking at understanding the person's personal situation. I know I've got one of my developers is Zimbabwean, And I don't know if you guys follow much world news, but Zimbabwe at the moment has just gone through a massive political change. Robert Mugabe has been pretty much ousted, and it's affected him because his family's in Zimbabwe. And I was wondering why, and to be honest, he wasn't delivering on deadlines. But I fortunately had read the news, and I just sat inside and said, his name's Tavanga, like, what's going on? And he basically said, look, Adrian, this is the deal, I'm a bit worried about home situation. So I said, well, that's fine. You know, you've got to take sometimes that personal situation into account as well, because, I mean, you guys know if something goes wrong at home, it affects your work. So again, a big thing. I can't stress the fact enough that communication is massive, especially as a remote worker.
Yeah, I don't know if you have a presentation about giving feedbacks and those kind of things. I mean, if you, I just want to say, because if you work remotely or whatever, you will have that in your life. Like, you will have to communicate good and bad news to your teammates or to somebody from the team or to the client. I mean, to the client it's something different, but if you communicate it to the teammate, don't do it on the group calls, on the group meetings and those kind of things. If you deliver any negative feedback, do it one-on-one.
Yeah.
Like, don't embarrass somebody in front of everybody.
Yeah.
Just do it, but if you do it positive feedback, don't forget to have positive feedback always.
Yeah.
And you can do it in front of the other teammates.
Yeah,
that's cool.
100%.
Because everybody wants to feel like they have done a good thing, and yeah, and they want to they want good feedback to come when other guys are around. So yeah.
I've seen it in the stats, I've seen it in product turnaround, I've seen it in productivity levels. When you compliment your staff, when you compliment people, I can see it, I literally can see it in charts. So guys, if you're ever going to go into a position of power, please don't do what a lot of elitists do today. Just try and obviously, like I said, take into account everything. I think this is probably more the section I'd like to talk about. Is remote working, how to make it a success. That is definitely what I don't do. I do not sit on my couch and work. Yeah, so one of the big things for you guys especially is that in the IT industry, especially in Serbia, you don't want to leave your country. But the one thing you do want to do is you want to work for foreign companies. So I know people in the UK hire to Serbia, I know people in the States hire to Serbia. I mean, he works for a foreign company. It's massive. So for you guys, why up your base to go somewhere? Just work from home if you can make it right. If you're in the industry like IT, graphic design, I mean even management to the extent a company called Automatic, a lot of their product managers sit all around the world. So, you know, that's the type of thing, but how do you make it a success? That is obviously the key. Right, now, my top 5 tips. I felt obviously being a remote developer for 3 years, 3.5 years basically, I felt I've managed it relatively well. The fact that my clients have stayed with me, the fact that my major ones have stayed with me. So it's all about a few tips that I found were quite successful for me. So one of them is definitely time management. It becomes so more important when you're working remotely, because I tell you now, when you're working remotely, your clients, your employers, they're going to monitor you so much more because they think you're doing what I was doing in the last picture, sitting on the couch, you know, having coffee, watching TV. That's what they think you're doing. That's what everyone thinks you're doing actually, and you work whenever you can. So they're going to monitor your timelines and your deadlines a lot more, and a lot more. They're going to scrutinize you basically. So to me, time management is massive, and it does become a little bit easier once you get used to it, but very important. I'm pretty sure from your perspective, Nemanja, that you would understand time management.
Yeah, especially I think this is important to say so we can separate things. Like if you have A players in a company or your teammates. When I say A players, I mean the best players in the game, like the best developers that you can hire, the best guys in marketing, those kind of things. They know how to. You can give them freedom, like all the freedom. They will do the work. But if you don't have, and the biggest possibility is that you won't have, maybe you will have one A player, they need to have rules and some rules to have results. Otherwise, they will feel they can do whatever they want, they will have more freedom than they need, because they need somebody to guide them. They are not A players and they don't know everything. So this is also important. This has been an issue in my company, and we gave people all the freedom they wanted to. We gave to them, and then we had to take back the freedom because they didn't giving the results, and they were like trying to misbehave or try to avoid some tasks and those kind of things.
Like, you know what, he's 100% right. It also depends on the person as well. I've also encountered a lot of people that want to work from home, so just have to put that in inverted commas because they want to go home and play games or do something. And you see it in their deadlines. And the big problem there is that they've abused that. I don't think working remotely is a right. I believe it's a privilege. So for me, you know, some people abuse that. And it's just obviously it makes it a little bit horrible for other people. But I think over time people are going to realize that it's the future, and they will know that, you know, if they don't deliver, they're just going to snag.
Yeah, I mean, if you have been, you know, right now you are not managing people probably, but someday you will be. And when you become that, you will first be the employee, the worker, whatever. You will know how people behaving, you know, because it was you at one time. So you cannot cheat a cheater, no? And people don't understand that often, because if somebody tries to avoid deadlines or try to give some excuses, I know when they do it, because I was that guy in the past. So yeah.
No, it's true, and I've seen it time and time again. Just in the time, like one of the guys that we work with, he always says he's going to work from home. And you can when that day he says he's working from home, I can immediately see that he's not really working, just from his communication. It completely changes. So hopefully in the future that stops, because it does ruin it for the next person. But yeah, so time management is important. Just stick, if you're going to work from home, stick to your 8 to 5 or your 9 to 5, whatever you have. It makes sense. And it also just helps you, because when I first came to Serbia, that was my first time remote working. And I thought it was great. I was like, yes, we're going to go for coffee at lunch, we're going to do all these things, we're going to eat my pizza at lunch or whatever. Sorry, I probably pronounced that wrong.
It's perfectly.
No. You know, I thought this was great. And you know what, it hurt me, because I would have to work so much later to make up for the time that I missed in the day. And also, I'm not in communication with the people now because they've stopped working. So for me, it didn't make sense, because now I'm asking a question, but I have to wait for the next day to get my answer. So time management for me becomes ever so important.
It's also like one of the things I was talking about with giving full control and not full control. Like we gave people an opportunity, because we are all working remotely. The company is in Canada and we have a few people there, but other people are working all across Serbia and around the world if they're traveling. But the thing is, we gave them full flexibility when it comes to working hours, depending on the communication with the client and certain tasks. But we figured out that if we want to contact some of them, they don't respond in even in half an hour. And sometimes it's really important to respond fast. So we narrowed it. So now we are working 5 hours, which is fixed, and it's in the morning Canadian time, when all our clients are working, and other 4 hours can be flexible, depending on other tasks. And we imported some of the rules, like when it comes to communication, we communicate mostly through Slack. So from that time, 4 hours, you need to respond in 10 minutes on Slack, on every message. If it's Jira tasks, mostly developers tasks and those kind of things, half an hour, it's okay. And what's also important, I don't know how it's with your clients, but in Canada and USA, clients wants to be responded as fast as possible. You don't need to do the task in 5 minutes, 10, if you're doing something else. But you need to respond that you will do the task in that and that time. They need to know when the task will be done. And they appreciate it very much.
Yeah, it goes back to the thing where I said they don't want to be in the dark. They just want to know that you've looked at the problem and you're basically making a plan to fix it. And the one thing for me, when I get up in the morning, it's very easy to pretty much my workspace is in my room. And it's very difficult to make that switch to get up and go. When you're getting in a car and you're driving to work, it's very easy. The first thing I do is actually make the bed. Okay, my wife sleeps another half of it, but I make my half. And it might sound strange to you, but I do a task first. And I'll tell you why I do this, because that's one task for my day off. And just creates a cycle for the rest of the day. So one task done, let's get on to the next one. Let's get on to the next one. I know it sounds strange, some people do, they check their Facebook, they check their Instagram. I do that later. I find that just creating something, which is making the bed, done first as rather consuming something, which is Facebook and Instagram. I'll go eat and do whatever I need to afterwards. But yeah, basically that's what I do. I find that helps me just to have that transition. Now, knowing when to switch off, that's massive. Very easy to get in your car at 5 o'clock and go home, you're done your day, right? For me, I'm obviously not done my day. I'm still sitting in my office, so they say. How do you switch off? Well, you need to find something that makes you switch off. And I can promise you now, if you don't, you're going to burn out. You're basically you're gonna work. I only sleep 6 hours a night because that's how I feel is right. But sometimes I work till 6, 7, and I'm burning myself out at the end of the day. That's wrong. End of the day, when you've done your allotted hours, when you've done your tasks, don't carry on, because you are, as a developer, burning yourself out is the worst thing to do. Because then you're going to be stuck for about a week, and then your productivity goes. Again, going back to communication, I'm not going to go back into that. I mean, I've stressed enough. But the one thing I'll give you guys is that if you ever feel like you're irritating your client or your employer, don't. Just send them the message. Rather, if you guys are working for someone and you think, oh, if I message them now, I might be irritating them. Don't. Keep with them. Keep talking to them. Make yourself present. Because if you don't, you are going to be sidelined massively. So make sure you're always in the conversations, and then I can tell you now, you will always feel like you're part of that company still, because that is a big problem. And it's one of my things to look out for is coming up. One of the big problems is that some remote developers or remote workers feel like they're being sidelined, and it happens because for the guys sitting in the office, the majority of them, it's for them to try and communicate now with you, who's sitting somewhere else in the world. To them, it might be a bit too much. It's easier for them to walk and go stand at the desk than to get on Skype or get on Slack or whatever. So make yourself present and make sure that you're there. Even if you feel it's going to irritate your boss or it's going to irritate your client, just send it rather. Because rather that than keep quiet.
If you're quiet, they will think you are just replaceable.
Exactly.
And everyone can do that. Like everyone can do nothing. They can always hire somebody to do that. 100%. But if you approach them ahead with some ideas what can be changed, that you impose your opinion and those kind of things, that's important because you make yourself like worth it.
No, it is. It's massive. Have a dedicated workspace to come to. For me, instance, like I said, I got it set up in my room, and then, however, I do like to work from coffee shops here and there, and when I'm flying home, that's like, for me, when I have to go back to Cape Town now next Friday, it's a 30-hour flight. So it was 30-hour transit and flight. So to me, that's wasted time. That's literally 3 days of work time. So for me, I just get 2 days in, whether I'm sitting for 6 hours in the airport or sitting 8 hours to 10 hours on a plane, they've got Wi-Fi now. So for me, that's fine, but it's always nice to know that you've got a dedicated workspace to come to, because I feel that you can sit down for 4 or 5 hours and get your stuff done. There's no interruptions, because sometimes at a coffee shop, especially in Pirot, someone walks by and they know you, which you know everyone in the town, and then you start a conversation and you have a beer or whatever, and then where do you go from there? So sometimes having a dedicated workspace is quite huge.
I add something more. I don't know if you have that experience, but in my team there were people. We are all like working remotely, but there were some people who were afraid of having a conversation or actually calling a client. They will always stick to the emails, even if the clients are not responding. I mean, you can always follow up until the end of whenever. But sometimes if the client not responding, just call them. You don't need always to schedule phone calls or whatever. They can always say, call me in 30 minutes, and that's perfectly fine. But don't hesitate to call the guy.
Yeah, no, 100%. Sometimes hearing your voice is awesome. So text doesn't mean anything. Text is, there's no feeling to it.
Sometimes also like in the email, people tend to have stronger approach. to be straight, when you read the email, you may feel like they are pissed. Or something like that. But when you call them, oh, it's okay, just finish it. No, like this. So it's important that you separate those things.
No, it's 100. So many times I've gotten an email that I felt it was quite rude, and then I phoned them. They're actually like quite happy with everything. It's just I interpreted the email quite incorrectly, and it happens so many times. Just get on a Skype call. It's free. Have a call with them. They hear your voice. You can hear their voice, and you can immediately hear. Even if you want to have a video call, go for it. You can just hear what the actual situation is. So yeah, that's definitely one of those things. Internet. Obviously, it's a given that you need internet, but people actually underestimate how important a good internet connection is. I've known some guys that will go home and they're trying to work with 4G or 2G, and you try to have a phone call with them on Skype, and it's just like, I'm trying to phone Johannesburg, and it's just like, you know, it's chop in, chop out, and I'm like, nah, you know, just make sure you got a decent internet connection. And I'll tell you now, when you're sitting in budget meetings or planning meetings and then you can't really hear, it just doesn't benefit everyone. So I know it's probably
nice quiet place with a good Wi-Fi.
Yeah, it's probably, I don't even need to put it down there, like I said, it's a given, but it's definitely important.
It needs to be said, like, even today, people who are working for 2-3 years, sometimes on a meeting, they do it in a crowded cafe, and they are always muted during the meeting, so if they switch on the sound, we cannot hear anybody else. Even we cannot hear them, so it's really rude sometimes.
It is. I've had a few phone calls when I've been sitting in a coffee shop, and I try and go outside to, you know, make it obviously a little bit quieter, but again, if I'm just having my break or whatever, but yeah, it's definitely those few things do make a huge difference, especially for the people that you're working for or with.
And one of the things that I like to do, and I think it improves like productivity, when you're having an important meeting on which you are actually thinking about something, developing something, do it while you are walking if you can, because your brain is working more efficiently that way.
Yeah, it's true. Positives of remote working: flexibility, 100%. Obviously, don't be too flexible. The freedom, I know for me, just having the freedom is massive. It helps me develop things, manage things a lot better. Like I said, don't get carried away with the freedom, like sitting on a couch or, you know, playing PlayStation or something. Your stress levels do come down being a remote worker. I find that, you know, when I used to be in Cape Town, I was sitting in traffic for about 3.5 hours a day. That's literally what I used to do. Just every day, Monday to Friday, 3.5 hours. That's my day done. So I'd go leave 6 in the morning, get to work 8:15. If later, sometimes it's bad traffic, then I'd only get home at 7. You know, bulb rates probably not the same, but that's the type of thing. So that already ups your stress level, especially when people drive really badly. And also the stigma attached to going to the office is kind of stressful. I mean, it's nice to say I can wake up, go home, and you know, you're right there. You're right. Your office is in your house. So it does make a huge difference on the stress level. Now I have felt it. I've taken on a lot of big projects, but I think if I was in the office, it would have been a much different story. You're more productive. You're happier, and that's the key thing around it. Being positive remote working, you're definitely more productive, unless you fully manage yourself. And there's obviously many more types of key positives around remote working. If you do have the fortunate opportunity that I've had to work remotely, take it. Take it with open hands. What to look out for, and this is the one thing I did pick up earlier, being sidelined. You'll be surprised how many times this happens. Being sidelined is, like we explained earlier, is that when you're too quiet, and you got to make yourself present. And to me, I have felt it sometimes in my career where I felt like getting ousted out of meetings because I'm remote. But I invite myself. I say, no, I need to be in this meeting. And that's the one thing you need to look out for. And there are a few things that you can see. When you were obviously in the office, or there were certain things you were doing, and you're going into a remote position now, if you're not involved in those activities anymore, that's when you start questioning, am I being sidelined? And if you pick up on those, you ask the questions why. Because it's massive. You don't want to be sidelined. Because basically, when you start getting sidelined, when retrenchment processes happen, when people start losing their jobs, you're not in that top category of staying. You start becoming that number that, you know, we can actually get rid of it. So just make yourself present, and that's by sending that email, having that phone call 3 to 4 times a week. It does make a huge difference. So yeah, so from a remote working perspective, so yeah, like I said, I personally manage 5 developers being remote, and I must say it works if you do it properly. So yeah, that's just from a remote working perspective, I quite enjoy it. One of the other things here was becoming too flexible. Don't be too flexible. I personally stick to my 8:30 to 5, just to make sure I keep in contact. Fortunately, the people I deal with are in my time zone. I know anyone that has that problem where they're in Canada and they're about 6-7 hours behind. Fortunately, they are in my time zone. We're only an hour behind, which from daylight savings, so it's fine. So it does make it a little bit easier for me. But when I did go to the States at the beginning of the year, I tried to work and do the whole holiday thing. It was horrible. South Africa being 7 hours ahead, it just did not work at all. Because obviously I actually poorly managed it myself.
You just remind me of something like my boss. He's a guy who runs companies on 3 continents. So in Europe, in US and Canada, and in Australia where his brother is.
Yeah.
So he's living in Canada. So his day starts like 6 hours behind us, and he finished something, then he has a call with us, like it's 7 o'clock in the night, our time, and then like at 9 o'clock in the morning, our time, he has to do a call with his brother about the business over there. So basically, if he's in Serbia, he has to work the whole day and the whole night, and to wake up in the morning at 9 to actually finish that call. So imagine if you don't organize your time accordingly, how stressful is that? I mean, you will just pass out after 2 weeks or something like that.
Yeah. How many of you work remotely? 1. Sort of.
I mean, I'm doing something completely different. I'm listening to you now. You have to be present for your client, and I'm not. I'm actually selling photographs on the internet, so I don't see the eyes, I don't hear my clients, and this is really privileged to do.
Yeah.
And another things, I do creative things. So I have my time, this nap time, and walking on the beach. It's very important for stay calm and stay creative, because I cannot be on time. Actually, it's another job, and my presence. I mean, I'm listening to you, but I don't have to be present.
No, fair enough.
From to what time? Satisfied
2 to
somebody,
6,
to be present, to have a conversation. This is completely another job, and the most important for me is to be creative, because I sell creative things.
So it's very interesting there, because it's very industry specific, and obviously this is obviously very coding, technical type of things. But for you to go walk on the river, to go in the mountain, I think that would probably just opens up your mind for your creative, ideas to come. But that's brilliant. I mean, that's fine.
I think you are also doing this, and me, like my escapism, or where I recover my energy, is going to the mountains during the weekend, those kind of things. And I think you are also like going traveling, something like that. Also doing that. You maybe have something different.
The important for me is creation, but to be visible, it has to be from creation to down, so to become visible. So I need time to work on this, actually.
But
it's not important at what time, should I?
No, fair enough.
So I have problems actually when I do from home, where I don't have working time. Nobody thinks that I'm working.
No one thinks any remote worker works. It's just
I'm doing like 90% of my job over the phone, so like people don't get it.
No, and it's the way the world's going. And just taking your situation there, it's actually quite interesting, because you say that you don't necessarily have to be present for the client, but your how would I say this, your image, your business image, that's how you present.
Yes.
It's from your Instagram. I'm pretty sure you got your Instagram video, photos and stuff on there.
No, this is on another site. I sell photos.
Well, there we go. That's the way you present.
Yeah, this is my portfolio, and I build my portfolio.
That's awesome. But that's definitely it's very interesting.
For me, it's very interesting what she says, because I'm constantly like watching YouTube videos of people explaining how their creative process is going. I'm intrigued by that, and I'm looking at other people, how do they explain it, and those kind of things. All of them have different routines, all of them have different advices. It's just what works for somebody doesn't mean that it works for somebody else, but all of them have some routines, and those kind of things, which inspire creativity.
So like I say, so there's a few messages I have for developers, and sorry, I know this is not necessarily your industry or maybe a few others, but programming is not a get rich quick scheme. It isn't. It's taken me a lot of hard work. I'm not driving my Maserati just yet, but it's taken me 11 years to get to a stable position where I'm happy with what I've done. And it's just one of those things. A lot of guys are taking the industry like that, and I don't believe that at all. But obviously if that's what you want to do, then that's fine. Hard work doesn't always pay off, doing it all the time does. As I'm sure all of you know, you can work hard on Monday, but what happens the rest of the days? If you don't work hard the rest of the week, then Friday comes and you sit back in the same boat that you were, you know, with lots of tasks. You know, I personally try and work as hard as I can every single day, but I mean that's just one of those things. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes you kind of Friday comes and you're like, no, it's cheers, I want to go have a beer. But yeah, working hard consistently, that will give you results without a doubt. If you're looking at programming only as a career that pays the bills, just take this into account, and this is something I do kind of swear by. Programming has become a commodity, without a doubt. There's a guy that's actually spoken about this, Gary Vee, and I fully believe that this is what it is. It has become a commodity. If you want to use programming as something that's going to give you many jobs in 10 to 15 years' time, that's not the case. Maybe accountancy, maybe being a lawyer, yes, but not programming. Long ago, when the Facebooks weren't even around, when the things were just developing, when an IT boom kicked in, that is when choosing programming as your career would have helped you now to have a job or keep you stable. The market is saturated as it is, and I'm sure you know as well. I've put an ad online before in Pirot, well not in Pirot, in Serbia, in South Africa, and the jobs just flying because people are looking for work, because the market is saturated. I'm not saying don't get into it, I'm just saying do it for the right reasons. And if the right reason for you is because you want to pay the bills, then so be it. But yeah, that's just one of those things. So what I'm just trying to say is that the reason why, one of the big reasons I got involved in Children's Aid is to try and push that theory across, that programming isn't one of those jobs that you can just pick up quickly, earn 5,000 euros a month. It doesn't work like that. The hard work does have to come into that. And learning, and being good at it. Basically the one thing I know that I try and thrive on is debugging. That's a massive thing for a developer, is to be a good debugger. Because anyone can create programs, not anyone can debug them. And I'm sure when you as a youngster, you're going to go into a company with a current system, with a system now. And you're going to have to fix stuff, you're going to be in a maintenance role. And that maintenance role will pretty much be debugging. So if you're good at that, you're quite sorted, and it'll help you to become involved. And lastly, nothing. The world owes you nothing. Seriously. And this, I swear by this, I personally, I don't try and look for things, I don't deserve anything. Try and work hard for everything you got. And if you think if you do that, you won't have a problem at all. So yeah, that's there we go. That is what the world owes you nothing. So yeah, guys, I'm sorry if it is a bit more IT related, but very interesting to hear your side of what you do. But yeah, I don't know if you've got any questions, and I think you've got a few things you want to ask.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we can explain like how it's going when you establish your own workflow.
Yeah.
Or maybe I can tell it from a perspective when you come to a certain organization or company, how does onboarding goes and those kind of things. Even if you hire a new developer, how do you get him into the workflow and everything, communication and those kind of things?
Well, so from my perspective, firstly, I won't, any new developer I hire, I will never put him into a position where he feels that what he's going to do is going to crash everything. I'm going to slowly but surely get him involved with small things. I'll try and give them a new project as opposed to maintenance. For me, in the specific role that they're in, I won't necessarily, I'll put them in a little bit of maintenance on small areas, but I'll give them a new project that works off the current tech, so they can understand how the business works. So that's from the one perspective there. Also, I try to, from my perspective, they need to speak English, but they're obviously used to Skype. So for me, just getting them used to that conversation, not personally, and that's the one thing that I do find the guys struggle to do, is not being face-to-face. They're not used to the whole over Skype, over Slack, over Skype for Business or whatever it may be. Just getting them comfortable with that. Because I mean, as a 20-year-old, 21-year-old looking for a job, and now you have to do this over Skype when you've been brought up in a situation where you think you're going to be sitting in a boardroom and stuff like that, it is a bit of a change, but making them comfortable with that process is quite huge. But yeah, just giving them the small things and just helping them, guiding them on their way.
usually what we do is like we introduce them to all the tools that we use, like Skype, Slack, Jira, Trello. Like we use a lot of them, and also those connected to the marketing development,
of course,
those kind of things. And like we cannot even introduce them to the team if they are not on Slack. So those things are important. And what we do in the first week, when they catch up with the jobs, we present them all our clients. What do they do? How do they do? They get a chance to take a look at their websites and their businesses, those kind of things. And also, like we have this thing, we give them a chance to learn something that they don't know in the first week. Like we're buying these Udemy courses, so we have a lot of them, from development to photography to marketing, whatever, and we give them the chance to go over some of the things which are their lowest point, like weakest, and in that way, like we slowly get them into the team, and they are from the day one into the team daily conversations, so they can catch up with what's new and what's going on over there.
Interesting. You mentioned the Udemy courses. For guys that are learning, I find that they're quite great. I've just picked up an Angular one and a project management one, I think. The way they've structured Udemy, very, very cool. I think also like you must try and catch them on a Black Friday sales of $10, I think.
Yeah, they're also like, I think that's important for everyone. Like around after New Year, they're around 10 days, I don't know. When the courses are also like $1 or $1 to $10, like the huge sales, also like they did on Black Friday.
Yeah, no, it makes a difference. I mean, these are $200 books that are going for $10. And you always think online courses, do I do them? I've started it, and I personally can say they're quite beneficial if you do want to try them.
It's connected to everything. Like you can do Photoshop Basics, Photoshop Pro.
Yeah, I mean,
whatever you think about, there's a course for that.
100%.
Also, like we have this one which is pretty like interesting. It's like learning how the people are behaving, how they are moving, and seeing if they lie or not. Let's say that's one interesting.
I don't think I found that one. But yeah, look. From my perspective, I'm going to try and get involved with as much as I can in Pirot to help the guys here. Guys have asked me why haven't I moved to Belgrade. I don't really want to move there, to be honest. I quite like this town, and if I can help youngsters to get into the industry a little bit easier, I'll do so. So yeah, for anyone that is, I mean, I know you got mates as well. If you want to get any info on IT, anything, you just pop me a message on Facebook. I'm always willing to help if I can, in anything. So yeah. That's it.
Questions? Come on, you don't have any question connected to the remote working. Adza?
No, I'm fine.
You're fine.
I have my vision.
So connected to that what you want to do here, maybe an advice for Lazar. He's finishing high school. Developer. So
well, you know, the first thing just going back to the first part of the conversation is just understanding development. Just understanding that, yes, you're a developer, but there's so much more to it. There is so much more. From the product going to the clients, you know, people, bug testing, UAT, so much. If you don't necessarily have to know how to do each one of those jobs, just understand how that fits into the puzzle. And it's huge. I know many developers that don't understand that QA is different from UAT. QA is when you've got a bug, goes to quality assurance, they sign it off. UAT is then the client actually signing off and saying, we're happy with your fix. You know, they think that's the same thing. But it's not, it's complete. That actually happens pretty much towards the end of the cycle. So, yeah, and just, that's one thing, understanding that process and just try and debug as much as you can. Because to me, making new projects is great, but trying to get involved with like job shadows. Getting involved with companies that are willing to give you like a little bit of work in here, even if it's free, if they're not paying you for it. Get involved in that debugging process. It's only going to set you up for success in the future. I can give you lots of stuff to debug if you want, to be honest. There's tons of stuff of mine that's broken, so we can have that chat. So
I would like to help.
You, anytime. I'm always willing to give you guys some code and stuff. So also, it is overwhelming seeing different new systems, but just take it step by step, baby steps. where when you see, I mean, one of our systems has got probably maybe 1,000 files in one of its modules. You're not going to understand everything. I don't understand most of the systems I work on in the other areas. You know, I don't understand everything. But just if I want to, just ask the questions. Just baby steps. You'll get there. Just don't think you're going to leap into it and know everything, because that's when you're going to actually fall off. But yeah, there's tons more I can talk about, trust me. But yeah, the key thing is understanding that SDLC, massive. And obviously that will definitely narrow that gap between graduation and going into practice. And task management is high there, but that will come with time. But just understand that SDLC.
Thank you.
Yes?
Can you tell us which company are you working for, and something about your work experience and the education?
Okay. So the main company I work for is called Greatsoft Beachway Limited. They're based in South Africa. I write financial systems, so like South African tax law, South African accounting. Basically pretty much stuff based only on the rules in South Africa at the moment. So that's the main company I work for. And then I've got another gig basically, so to say, which is a company called OpsPro, that's a company that I've hired the 2 developers for. We write quality assurance software, which is basically when like Telenor phone you or the bank phones you, you know, you got a voice recording. Actually people listen to that call and rate it. And basically the person that's phoned actually gets a commission on that. So I actually write the system that evaluates that call, so people go through a questionnaire. There's coaching that's attached to it and there's a few other things. So mainly for me it would be that type of QA systems, CRM, and then financial systems. From education, this is where it's interesting, education experience, I've got a diploma in software development. I finished high school at 17, went to study for a year. Then, yeah, so I went to school a little bit early. So I studied for a year, and then my theory was I could have gone on to do my information systems degree, but at the time I was in that industry, at the time of IT in 2007 I think it was, I said to myself, I need to be in business. I needed to get the practical experience first. And then I can always top up on that degree later. You know what, for me...
You were 19 at the time?
I've started working, I think my 19th birthday I was already at the company. I had a 19th birthday, I was already working for a company. So for me, practical experience was massive. And to be honest, it's helped me. I wouldn't change anything that I've done. Some people said, why didn't you go get your information systems degree? I said, no, not at the stage programming was in, practical was everything. Yeah, and that's it. So I've got a certificate through the University of Cambridge, but to be honest, I don't have any ambition to go get my information systems degree because I think for me, it's not really worth it. I can go top up with my work experience now, and I'm pretty sure you guys can do that too. With work experience, you can get credits, and they can help you do your degrees in whatever field you're in. But for me, I'm quite happy to do what I'm doing because I've learned so much more. And I can comfortably say at 22, when people in South Africa would have finished their information systems degree, at 22 I was miles ahead of them. And that's just set me up to where I wanted to be today. Hope that answers your questions. Hope you understood. Sorry if I speak a bit fast.
You speak a little bit fast for us.
Sorry. Yeah,
Don't listen fast. Too fast.
I would just add a thing on that. When you like, do you have a degree or no, and those kind of things. Like right now in the world, in the industry, whichever it is, people will hire you if you know how to do the job, and if you can provide them with value. No matter if you have previous experience or you have a degree or whatever, if you can prove them that you know how to do the job and you can bring them something new value, you can solve their problems, they will hire you. That's also the thing that I'm telling always to the people who are looking for a job. Like, don't just send CVs and those kind of things. Nobody will respond to that, probably. And like, just find companies that you want to work for and see what are they struggling with, or if they're hiring certain people. So if they are like social media managers, let's say, they are hiring them for a reason, because they don't know how to do it, or it's somebody who's been working for them before, did it in a way that they don't like, and they didn't provide results. So try to figure out how you can help them actually achieve that, and write that, or when you apply for a job, do it in a way that nobody else is doing. It's hard nowadays. People are doing all kinds of things to do. I saw that even people are sending like pigeons with a message, with a CV, all kind of things, like bringing them cakes which look like the CEO of the company, all kind of things. So it's very hard to be different to the people, but try it. If nothing else, just create a video in which you show them how you do the work and actually who you are, what's your personality, and everything else. That's the less you can do.
He's got an interesting point. Interviews are won and lost in the first 10 minutes, without a doubt. And a lot of CEOs today, they ask them this question. It's a very interesting one. They ask them a question. If you were stuck in an elevator for 3 hours, would you want to be stuck with that person? And I promise you, it blew my mind when I thought I heard it from one director one day, and then I heard it actually from a few. And I was like, yeah, this is a very interesting, theory. So for me, when you're having an interview with these guys, a lot of them maybe that across their mind, would you want to be stuck in an elevator with them? And it's interesting because you think about it, if you're working with someone and you're stuck with them, would you want to be in the elevator with them? And if you don't, do you want to work with them? Do you want them to be part of your team that's going to take you forward, drive solutions, So to me, interviews are won and lost in the first 10 to 20 minutes, without a doubt. It's all basic stuff.
I have a genius here. So instead you send the CV, you record yourself. This is the best CV, I think, because this man will know you.
Yeah.
Will see you, your personality, your energy, and of course you can talk about.
And you can edit in a interesting way the video also. That's also important.
There's that guy that got the job at Gary Vee with music video.
There's a guy. We are talking a lot about Gary Vee.
No, it's awesome, man.
But there's a guy who created a video in which he explained the hustle and how he knows how to do the job, how he is actually editing photos, graphic design, something like that. Actually, the lyrics are saying that, and he's rapping, and it goes on, and it went viral on Reddit. So Gary Vee saw it, and he invited him for a call, for a chat, and he actually said, "I'll give you the job," and he got the job. I mean, it all depends on a CEO, on people who are hiring. But let's say in the case of this guy, Gary Vee, he's saying like, I feel like I'm gonna miss somebody good, so I give them all the chance. I can easily fire them if they are not good, but I will give them the chance based on what they do, the effort they did for applying to the position. So
it's so interesting. I'm not the most talented developer, without a doubt. I'll admit it. I'm probably quite antiquated because I come from a 10, 12-year background of development from VB and stuff like that. But I know what's going on with the new guys. But I've never had to do this for a while, but if anyone ever doubts my talent, I just say just meet with them. Because if there's one thing I can do, is I can relate with the team. I can be a team player. So anytime an interview process comes along, like I said, I haven't done it for a while, but I'll always say, if you're going to shut me down, just talk to me first. We can have the conversation. And it's so funny because a guy in Pirot actually said that to me. He sent me a CV, and it wasn't really what I wanted. But he liked me on Facebook. He said, just please meet me for a coffee. Meet me for a coffee. You know what? I hired him. He's probably one of the most talented guys I've ever met. He needs to come out and shine a little bit more. But such a talented developer, and definitely there's high hopes for him. But the fact is, he pushed. I was like, no, not what I need now. But he's like, please just meet me for a coffee. So I said, you know what? Let me bite. Let me go have a coffee with this kid. Boom. He works for me. He's still studying, so I've given him a part-time job. June comes, he's got a full-time job with him. And he didn't want to leave Pirot, so I said, well, don't leave Pirot, you can stay to work remotely. Let's make it work. So that's the thing.
Studying yourself is really important. Like when we were hiring somebody to work in the marketing team, one of the things that I added in questions for the interview, what I wanted to do is for all the people we were interviewing, they needed to come up with a story right now and at that moment. When I told them, tell me a story, you need to tell me a story. Only one of them did the story and she got the job.
That's it. It's huge, man. I cannot stress the fact enough. You see, the best part is I've been on either side now. I was interviewed by people, and and now I am interviewing people. So it's a very interesting. It's like it's a complete switch. So yeah, just sell yourself really well, and don't be scared to ask dumb questions in the interview. Like sometimes those questions actually, I mean, I've asked dumb questions before, and it's actually raised some interesting conversation. But yeah, no, it's 100% selling yourself.
Yeah. And also what's important also for the Upwork and wherever you're finding a job, or if you're working in a company, if you have an idea and like people are going to reject it like instantly at first probably, and if you really think it's a good idea and you know it will work, just come up with a process to explain why is this idea good or why they need to hire you, and be persistent with it. Like explain them so they can understand from their perspective, and like those are the things, and eventually it will come up to that and they will say, you were right telling this like a year ago. Like, we were wrong that we wasted a year not listening to you or not hiring you or those kind of things.
I worked with a guy in Cape Town about 4 years ago, a Zimbabwean guy as well. The Zimbabwean guys, they're massively hard workers because of their economic background. And he went to the States, went to be a developer in the States, and he needed funding. He was studying through, I can't remember the exact college, but it's maybe NYU, I can't remember. And he needed this funding, and they denied him every time. And he kept writing a letter to the dean. I need the funding, I can't afford it. So he rocked up at the dean's house and knocked on the door. And he's a skinny little Zimbabwean guy, like can't intimidate a fly. And he's just like, I need the funding. And eventually the dean actually gave him funding. Because he's so persistent, he was talented and he had the skills. But he just didn't fill their criteria of getting the funding because they've got a massive list that they have to go through. And you know, he just said, I need it, otherwise I have to go back home. And eventually the dean was like, yeah, okay, fine, we'll make a plan for you. Under the condition, all he had to do was, he said, we'll give you the funding, but what you do is, after hours, you just help out. You help out the college for 2-3 hours, guys that are learning, studying programming, and he said, I'll do that with open hands. And there you go.
There's also one more example connected to that. There's a guy, Steliefti, one of the best sellers in San Francisco, and like, the guy called him one day. He didn't know who is the guy, actually. And he told him, okay, I see you need help, you're working hard, right? He said, well, yeah, but that's how I roll. Like, but I think you need help, mate. Give me 2 weeks. I will figure out things out over here and I will come to help you. And this is a famous story on the internet, like Steliefti is saying that example all the time. And the guy actually came in 2 weeks. And he just came and he started working. Like without salary, without anything. He actually paid his ticket to come to the San Francisco, to the USA and everything. Steli didn't know where he is actually living or whatever. Does he have a thing for the food and everything at first? He just came in the office and started working, not asking any questions. He just figured things out alone, started to work more than everybody, started to work hard. Now he is the co-owner of his company.
Oh really?
Yeah, basically.
I mean, it's amazing, and just these stories, there's so many of them. But the key fundamental around these stories, and everyone says it, but what do you learn from them, is that just be persistent. If you really, really want it, you can get it. I never thought in a million years I'll be sitting in Pirot being a remote worker. I was very happy. 10 years ago, I was, well, no, not 10, about 7 years ago, I was a senior developer, very comfortable in my office, happy. Angela, my wife, we were sitting in Cape Town, happy. I never even thought I'd be here, but when the opportunity came to see the world, because obviously being in Europe, you can drive wherever you want to go, it's quite nice. You know, it's just, I persisted, and when the hard area for me is when we came over, I didn't have anything in place. I actually had nothing in place, no income, no nothing. I got debit orders coming from South Africa, you know, I'm going into the red zone, but I just kept persisting, eventually 6 months later, after being in a massive amount of debt, you know, the opportunities came. I kept asking the right questions, and basically, yeah, that's how it all transpired. So, one of those things is just taking it out, is be persistent, and I don't think you can go wrong. Look, it's not always going to be, you know, all roses. There are going to be letdowns, but if you keep trying, you keep knocking at that door. I personally can say it hasn't failed me.
Yeah, that's the thing I had also. Like, the other choice, besides doing my own thing, was going to work in Michelin. Like,
Oh jeez.
First, second, third shift and everything else. But I fought against my family, against everybody, and I managed to do it. So it's also important to believe in yourself, like in your possibilities. I mean, with me, it wasn't the thing that I was looking for a job like this one that I got. Like people just called me one day, and they told me, "Hey, Harry, do you remember me? Like I was listening to you 2 years ago. You were telling your story at the conference, and we are sitting here in the team, and we need somebody like to add to our marketing team. We are sure it is you, but what do you know about marketing?" So that's how I got into the company. And all those other jobs that I did before, like project writing, event management, project management, team management, HR, PR, marketing, whatever I did for NGOs and those kind of things, helped me, and in 11 months I became general manager of the company. So it's all of the things that you're doing are important. So don't miss a chance like this one to hear something or to get educated.
Yeah, I think also a big thing is playing to your strengths. I think a lot of guys don't do that. For me, I know that one strength that I have is my work ethic. I don't mind sitting 23 hours a day working and sleeping 1 hour and then having to wake up and do it all again. Some people do have a problem with that. So that's where I know my person is that I know I'll never fail, because if I have to work that amount of hours for a week, I'll do it. There's lots of Red Bulls going on the table, but that's okay. But one thing I've noticed is my strength is my work ethic. If your strength is, project management, if your strength is, you're always going to have a weakness, but play to your strengths. And that's definitely worked for me. I'm not saying it's going to work for everyone, but we try.
Yeah, like I think Gaga is a great example of that. I think that you play on your strengths. You know what you are good at, and you focus on that. That's I see it like that.
It's very hard.
But it's interesting. So, in summary, I'm just interested. I'm gonna pick up. What's the first thing that you do in the morning? After you wake up, what's the first thing? If it's disgusting, then it's fine.
Drink coffee.
Drink coffee. Well, there we go. See, for me, make my bed. So then that's just right with that one task. That's how I set my day up. It's just interesting. So if I could urge something, try it. Try to do a task first thing in the morning and see if it affects your day. If it doesn't, then scratch it. It's a shit idea. But try it. For me, it works. If you feel that you are behind in terms of tasks and you feel that you're not completing things that you want to do during the day, just try to change your routine a little bit. Because to me, there's two things: there's creating and consuming. Creating is doing your bed. Consuming is having breakfast or checking Facebook. That's consuming. You're just taking in stuff. For me, I get my task done, and once that task is done, I just go on to the next one, the next one, the next one. If you can't make your bed, it's fine. That's what everyone can do with it. But I create. So the one thing also, write off an email. If that's the one thing you do in the morning, if you wake up in your bed and you just check your emails, if you've got flag stuff that you can clear, that's creating. You're just getting rid of tasks, you're just getting it out of the way. As opposed to, I don't particularly wake up and look at Facebook or Instagram in the morning because I feel like I'm just going to lie there for 20 minutes and I'm just going to waste my time, So I try and get up and get going as soon.
I do it with YouTube. Catching up NBA games.
No, if that's your routine in the morning, that's
fine. I'm slow in the morning. Like I like to have an hour for me, like watching those things, like having a coffee, everything, and thinking about what's coming up today, and then I work for 18 hours.
Everyone's got this. It's a very interesting. Some people have got their different routines. But yeah, if you are finding that yourself, you're struggling to get through tasks during a day, or you're struggling to actually just manage stuff, just change up your routine a little bit. It might actually change your day. And that's sometimes I do wake up and my mind is messed, and I look at Facebook, and you know what? I can genuinely see that when I change my routine for the worse in the morning, my whole day is messed, because I'm just in that mentality, that negative mentality. But if I get done, get up, make that bed, then go down and do my coffee, check my mails while I have my coffee, I'm waxed. My day is ready to go. And also one thing, I've got a massive book. I don't do Evernotes, I don't do task management software. I've got a book, old school with a pen. And when I've done my task, there we go. Because you know what, that feeling of crossing out a task is the best feeling in the world, as opposed to clicking a checkbox on Evernote or something. So, and that's the one thing I do, I plan my day, as opposed to just sitting there on Instagram, Facebook, whatever. So, I mean, everyone has their own routines, but if you are finding yourself in a rut, change it up. And
It
it's
can
for
also
studying
be
as
done
well.
through Trello. I don't know if you hear it, but it doesn't matter if you have those tasks on the company Trello or whatever. Making your own Trello board is also working. So create your own task, no matter if you are employed or not.
Yeah.
Like you have some tasks to do. Maybe you are striving to be employed, and those are the tasks that you need to fill in to make yourself that person who's gonna get the job. So it's also important to have those steps.
Yeah.